special connection between young generation and existing businesses for many years and in some areas.
I believe that both young people and businesses are mutually unaware of the opportunities that each other has to offer.
We still have to, if we are starting from the bottom, we still have a long way to go. For example, the right to have access to education for everyone.
I think achieving the SDGs is not a simple task. I think that my country has done a great job in some of the SDGs, but in other ones, like climate action, we're taking steps backwards.
At the same time, businesses should be more proactive in engaging young people in their processes, because knowledge is there, capacity is there, but many of young people are still unaware of the existing pathways to contribute.
Миссия компании – это формировать культуру устойчивого развития
Company mission is to form the sustainable culture in Russia.
I have an organization in Indonesia. The organization named by the Society of Renewable Energy. The pentahelix model consists of the government, academia, and also the private sectors, local communities, and youth. So with the pentahelix model, we can collaborate each other. But the key enabler comes from the government, but the youth can be agitator.
Мы разрабатывая наши продукты,
When we develop our
будь то
products,
инсталляции или какие-то
installations or household
предметы быта,
items,
или какие-то
or some
физические или
physical or digital
продукты,
products,
мы всегда ориентируемся
we always
на
account for
методологию
methodology
именно
of
рационального
rational
этого
planning.
проектирования.
First thing about companies, the most important one is transparency of the processes and transparency of what value companies create and how it's doing so, and also flexibility of the companies.
We need younger people that are part of these processes because we trust each other.
And in order to align those two categories, bigger businesses actually have to provide better platforms for younger generation to get work experience.
Взаимодействие с крупными компаниями, вообще с бизнесом, оно очень важно.
Working with
We all
business
know
is very
that we need
important.
to cooperate and we have to be together, so making decisions without us is just not going to work.
Почему сейчас очень важно работать
Why it is important to work together right
только
now?
в связке
Because only by
с
cooperating with social
движениями и в
movements
рамках больших
and in the
стратегий
framework of
компаний
big companies'
можно достичь
strategies
устойчивого
is it
развития
possible to reach the goal of
в
sustainable
большом
development on a
глобальном смысле.
global scale.
Don't be afraid, just try and contact with companies, with people, and make collaborations.
Since we're the next generation of leaders, we really have no time left to spare. So please, if you're listening to us, if you're leaders, you have to have us on the table.
Hi, I'm Sophie Shevardnadze. So this pandemic has forced us to revisit our personal values, led us to soul-searching over our future as humanity. And I feel like awareness and personal responsibility, they have become the watchwords of our time. You know, environmental collapse and climate change are disasters of our own making. It's time to act, to come together to face these historic challenges that put us all in this danger. And I also think that trust and connectivity are the key to success here. And I'll tell you what, today I will be joined by true visionaries who have really fresh take on humanity's global problems. They're professionals, networkers, they know how to unite people around ideas and make their voices heard. Younger people have always been the driver of change, but today, really more than ever. Some of them are already bringing real solutions to the table. For instance, Maxim Kaplevich, a boy that I knew from very young age, a young friend of mine, someone we're very proud of, founder of Eco Platform Initiative. Max is also listed by Forbes among 30 under 30 leaders in social practices. Max, dearest, we're so glad to have you with us today. So tell us about the Eco Platform.
Sophie, thank you for inviting me. It's really an honor to me, to be here and to present our company. So what exactly we do in our company? We create solutions. So we combine ecology and technology in order for people to make it easy for them to collect their plastics and aluminum cans for recycling. So we develop reverse vending machines, which we place in supermarkets, in some residential areas. So we make really easy way for people to give their bottles and collect some rewards and to spend them for goods they want to buy or some services they want to use.
as you describe it, if I place an empty can or a plastic bottle into a RVM, I not only help the planet, I feel good about myself, but receive reward bonuses or a discount. And that sounds pretty cool, you know, Max, but kind of mind-boggling. Do we really need to be paid somehow to help the planet?
Actually, you know, everything works if there are some fines or rewards. We don't want any fines. We don't want for government to fine people who don't sort garbage. We want to create the environment where people get rewards, and it becomes economical for them to take their bottles and to give them for us. And the economic model works. That's why it's both. We are happy and our consumers happy. Everyone is happy. And also, some people, they're already thinking about environment. But what we want to create is a solution for everyone, for those who don't want to care about the environment, but they think about the reward and they understand, okay, I'm doing it.
I think it's a great idea, Max. And I want to ask you a question about mutual trust between generations, because it's sort of a backdrop of our whole session today. Traditionally, young people are supposed to listen to older people's life wisdom and follow their advice. But see, what we have, it's millennials and Gen Zers, and we've been witnessing climate cataclysms more than anything during their lifetime that previous generations, and really it's just them now who are left to clean up the oceans, and they're choking in this plastic. What is the lesson they can teach older generations?
Actually, I think we are the first generation which really faced the problem of waste, because you understand that waste, it wasn't forever. It became the problem with the growth of retail chains and the capitalism, the production of goods. And actually, we cannot blame older generations, because when they were young, they didn't have this problem. It's the problem we are facing right now. And that's why it's so important for us to tell everyone about it. And I think older generations are already also thinking about it, and they also taking their responsibility, because everyone wants to save the nature for future generations.
What would be the best way, if you were to advise someone to how to explain to an older person why we need to take care of the environment? What would be the best, the simplest way to explain from a young to an older person why this is important?
I think you just need to show them some pictures, because when you show the picture of a plastic beach, the beach where is no sand and it's only plastic waste, or if you show some garbage trucks around the city, and I think everyone doesn't like waste. It's not about your preferences. Everyone hates waste.
Thanks a lot for your insight, and we wish you all the best of luck with everything that you're undertaking. You're very courageous. Keep it up.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Well, I'm part of the generation that grew up when there was no internet, no smartphones, and there you have Gen Zers, and they're probably the most technologically savvy, the most connected generation ever. I mean, they pick up a device and they're just a few clicks away pretty much from any piece of information on a planet. Sustainable development is not some pilot concept for them. It's lifestyle they promote. And there's a global youth-led organization called Student Energy, which empowers the next generation of leaders who are accelerating the transition to a sustainable, equitable energy future. Let's find out how this is implemented from Olubumi Olajide, the Chief of Student Energy's Energy Transition Career Training Program. Hi, Oli. Great to have you with us today.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, so your body, Student Energy, has been in place for, 10 years or so. Do you find it hard to actually build mutual trust with the companies that have been there for ages? Because you know what they say, with time comes wisdom, but also arrogance and skepticism.
So something interesting, because I think it really tells a lot that organizations like Student Energy has been able to exist, and not just exist, thrive and grow so much in the last 10 years, really shows that there is this gap where a lot of companies that are active in the energy sector do want to connect to that next generation. They want that intergenerational collaboration, and they want to have those values that align with sustainable development. So really, Student Energy has really gotten very good at working with companies in industry, governments, and other stakeholders who want to engage youth, and more importantly, being that bridge that links all those incumbents and all those people who have lots of experience to people who are young and hungry and want to be part of the change. And right now at Zera Energy, we've even taken that a step further with a program that I'm helping to develop, which is the career training program, which is geared specifically at youths who want to transition their careers to the clean energy sector, and really being proactive about that, because as we know, sometimes to start your career is hard, but in the energy sector, it's much harder because you don't have that access to the people and the resources that you need. So Zera Energy is being really proactive to be that bridge and to connect them to the careers that are out there but are just very difficult for you to know about unless you're in certain circles. So really prioritizing partnerships. Zera Energy is very collaboration driven, and that has helped the organization go to so many new heights that nobody would have thought would be possible 10 years ago before Zera Energy existed.
Ollie, thanks a lot for this inspirational answer. I wish you all the best in everything that you're undertaking. Wish you all the best in attracting young people to this sector, because you guys are our future. Take care.
Thank you so much. And just to round up, I have a point. So we have a career training program that's opening applications this month. So we really want it to be a program that attracts all the young people who are ambitious and excited about making a reasonable, like a sizable change in this world, but they don't have that bridge to get them into the clean energy sector. So if you're a young person listening to this and you want to get into the clean energy sector, please apply to our career training program. Just go to the energy website or contact me on LinkedIn, and trust me, you can be a big part of this push, and it's something so exciting that I hope that you can get engaged in as well. So thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been a great time speaking with you.
You've heard the men. You know what to do. Awareness is becoming keynote idea in all aspects of our lives, including work. Technologies offer us more flexibility in terms of how and where we work. Younger people today, they approach the work itself very differently. They're rejecting the linear career path that tells them to put hours in, get promoted, do it all again. Instead, they're really looking for fulfillment and to make a positive impact on the world. Paul Marciano knows all about it. Paul, hi. All right, so you criticize the carrots and stick model in the workplace and offer a respect model instead. As far as I get it, there is much more behind this word, respect. Can you sort of walk us through?
Yes, and I agree with everything you just said, and we all want respect. It doesn't matter of our age. Now, the respect model talks about how the more employees feel respected, the more they will engage in their work and deliver high levels of discretionary effort and be more satisfied. One of the reasons that people actually quit jobs and go where else is because of this loss of respect that they experience. So when people feel disrespected, they disengage. Now, the respect model is an acronym, and it identifies certain drivers. So the first is recognition. So the extent that people are recognized and acknowledged for their contributions. Empowerment, the extent to which people really feel as though they have the tools and the resources they need to be successful. Supportive feedback, so giving ongoing coaching and mentoring to employees. And I think that this is actually more important for the younger generation than for a lot of other folks that have entered the workforce previously. So partnering, developing those collaborative working relationships, setting clear expectations and holding people accountable, demonstrating consideration for people as individuals, really being thoughtful and caring about them, and then fostering this climate of trust. You know, these are the elements that lead people to really experience respect.
Well, I feel like the younger generation sees large companies, industrial heavyweights, as the reflection of the old ways of doing things and retrograde thinking. Am I wrong to think this way?
No, you're not wrong at all. There are many large companies, especially those in the manufacturing industry, who tend to be stuck in old ways of thinking, including more traditional processes and management principles. You know, especially when there is already an established hierarchy, a lack of transparency, lots of bureaucracy, the younger generation of employees become very frustrated and they disengage, including, of course, leaving an organization. You know, employees that are entering the job market today tend to be more progressive and flexible in their thinking, and they want to work for organizations naturally who have philosophies and values and approaches that match their own. You know, the ability to work at least somewhat remotely, flexible hours, more autonomy, and have that greater work-life balance has become critical for younger generation. You know, commuting and working that 9-to-5 job, just, it doesn't resonate for them. They don't see that as necessary in order to be effective in their roles. So companies that don't become more flexible and progressive are going to fail to attract or to keep their top talent. And we all know there's a talent war. This is an employee's market. So leaders have to remain open-minded and more collaborative with their employees. And this is probably going to require a shift in some organizations' culture. You know, for years we've spoken about the importance of cultural fit, and I believe that this is more important than ever.
All right, Paul, thanks a lot for this talk. It's been great chatting with you, and good luck with everything.
You're welcome.
So, like we already mentioned, Gen Zers are the most connected generation ever. They communicate with their peers more electronically than face-to-face, via social media, texting, instant messages. Images and memes tell for them more than words. They digest information and take decisions faster. You know what, I'm really glad to bring in a beautiful young woman that for the past 10 years I watched grow into a wonderful leader in her field, Zera Chereshneva, VP Strategic Projects Chief. Zera, it's so great to have you with us today. Welcome. I'm really glad that we get to talk about this.
And I'm so happy to see you, Sofiko, today.
If you look back several decades ago, current means of communication like instant messaging, WhatsApp, Telegram, Zooming really would seem like a fantasy, especially if we're talking in the traditional corporate structures, right? Where you have the business correspondence ethics, a strict hierarchy of decision making. Are all these things slowly drifting to the past now for good?
We have a lot of opportunities. This time is the time of talented people. What I mean, when you see somebody and you understand that this man is very talented, you don't need to wait for the years when he will start his career. Now you can just order him the job that you want. So now we live in a new time, and I'm very happy to be a part of this time. The difference is that our generation now has freedom, because our own life was a secret 10 years ago, and now it's okay to tell everybody everything about your opinion, everything about your own life, about your children, about your husband, and it's okay that we follow our bosses, our colleagues, and understand them. It's a new way of thinking, it's a new way of working, and social networks helps us to do it.
Digital tech has facilitated communication and exchange of opinions, but it also gave rise to many controversial trends. For instance, cancel culture. For young people, these things are already innate, but what rules of digital ethics should older generations learn to navigate their new reality? What would you tell them and advise them?
So at first, like a woman that is working in IT company in a big social network, I want to say that everybody need to respect each other, and we must be responsible of everything. That's why vk.com now creates a sustainable communication manifesto. We want to help people all over the world and all over Russia to understand how to speak with each other in the digital sphere. It's necessary because our mental health is very important for everybody, and we need to know, we need to understand that every time when we're bullying somebody, it's very bad, and the consequences can be very bad. Every time when we try to say cruel joke or to write it in recommendation style or something else in social networks, is bad, and we need to understand it.
Zera, it was so great talking to you. A real pleasure. Good luck with all your future endeavors. I hope we get to talk soon.
Bye-bye to everybody.
Many sociologists have this understanding that Gen Zers today have a feeling that the world is broken and it needs to be fixed. Well, they have an urgent desire to figure it out on their own, do their part, and though our attention span is becoming shorter due to information overload, it's still really important that we don't miss out on the important things out there. sustainable development is not only a thing of today, it is the only thing of tomorrow. Well, Mark Nelson is among many marching in his vanguard. His current research interests include tracking electricity system emissions. Hey, Mark. Good to have you with us today.
Good to be with you guys.
You know, we talk a lot here about trust that should be built between the young generation and the older generation. And we said that, you know, young people, they don't really trust large corporational structures. And I think it's not because one generation is bad, the other one is better. It's just that they live in a completely different paradigm. Young people live with quantum computers to come and virtual worlds. Older people still live sometimes in a Cold War paradigm. And if you look at all of this from the side, and if you're impartial, I mean, it's really clear that when you unite these two forces, the older generation and the young generation, that's like a real force of nature that can bring so much more, so much benefit to the world that we can know. What do you think should be some of the tools to connect this to generations so they can trust each other more and really find a common language to move forward together?
That's a really difficult question. And the way at least in America, the way I see the war of the generations is that many of our elders have very poor taste, and I'll explain that. And many of the young people have almost no ability to follow through on projects, either because of the depression that we've heard about from other speakers, or because of a lack of power. We use the word empowerment as a substitute for the word power sometimes. And in many cases, young people have a lack of wealth, which is the same as power in many ways. So if you're asking how can both sides come together, that's really difficult. And I think it has to be based around wanting friendships with young people on behalf of the older generation, and wanting relationships with older folks on behalf of the young. And I can only say that maybe it's a part of our general trend towards isolation and loneliness that we spend less time with everyone. And that means especially less time with people who are not like us, for example, older generations. For myself, I've tried to address this by getting an appreciation for older things that have fallen out of fashion, like older furniture or older ways of thinking about companies or businesses. It's not just an abstract language. You mentioned that young people don't like corporations, but they probably like doing important things with other people. Corporation is just one type of structure that this can happen in. And to the extent that young people are disenchanted with words and disenchanted with entire generations, the only thing back is joy and hope that comes through appreciating things that have been lost. And in my opinion, optimism, nuclear energy is one of the most potent uniting I've ever seen. I've seen old folks, young folks, right-wing, left-wing, pro-corporate, anarchist. I've seen about every type of personality come together over the joy and the optimism that a technical solution exists to social and environmental problems for pretty much every country in the world, rich or poor.
There we go. So the green energy is the solution. Green energy is what will bring all the generations together.
Wait, I would caution you. Green energy, the definition almost never in America, for example, includes nuclear energy.
Right.
In fact, I would say that green energy, the way it's typically defined, has a very great danger in cutting apart rich and poor, cutting apart the old and the young. So I would sometimes have to say, if you mean carbon-free energy, I say maybe. There are carbon-free energy sources like wind and solar that, whatever their merits may be, cut apart the city versus the country folk. Mm-hmm. Cut apart the rich and the poor, and may in fact cut us off from achieving our climate goals and our development goals in countries that are not already rich.
Thanks a lot for this wonderful chat. We wish you all the best in all your future endeavors.
Thank you very much.
You know, you can say, oh, it's so yesterday, it's so last season about a lot of things. But when you look closer, it's not that yesterday after all. For instance, grandma's vintage clothing are back in fashion, retro design, music are interesting in new interpretations, right? So intelligent consumption is really another important trend for a responsible citizen of the 21st century. Let's bring in Esther Wojcicki, a true expert in unlocking the young people's potential. And she's the author of The Voj Way, How to Raise Successful People. So, you know, I've just delivered a son 7.5 months ago or so. And to be quite honest, I have no idea in what kind of a world I brought him into. Can you tell me, how should I raise, or how can I raise a successful, happy person nowadays?
Number one thing you should do if you just had a son or a daughter is to give them as much responsibility as possible as early on. So instead of you, the parent, waiting on the child and always giving them something and always clearing the path for them like a snowplow, give them the opportunity to solve some of the problems themselves, because the world is going to be very different in just 5 years and in 10 years, and they need to be able to think quickly and not have to say, Mom or Dad, can you help me? They have to be able to think independently. So that is my number one suggestion for all parents. Let them help around the house, let them help make dinner, let them help when you take a trip, on planning the trip, let them do as much as possible.
And how do we build trust between older and younger generation?
It's a really important question. And the question is, how do you build trust? So trust has to come from the older person, the person that's the leader, the person at the top. So you cannot expect the kids to come up with this. So you have to trust the kids, trust the younger generation, give them opportunities to do things independently, and trust them. And if they violate the trust, if they make a mistake, give them the opportunity to fix it, to rectify it. And when people give trust, then what happens is that the younger generation feels empowered. They're like, wow, this really important person trusted me. I have to live up to their expectations. And so it starts when children are young, and it needs to be continued in school. So the main plea that I have is for the schools to make at least part of the time when students are trusted. Because right now, all over the world, students aren't trusted at all. You can't even go to the bathroom without a pass. You know, there's so many things that are where students are distrusted, and we need to change that. And I know that it works because I did it in my classes. I was a teacher in Palo Alto High School for 40 years. And that program grew to be the largest media program in the United States. And it was because the main focus was trust, trusting the kids, trusting them, respecting them, giving them a lot of independence, collaborating with them, and always treating them with kindness. So this is called TRICK. It's my model that I talk about in my book, How to Raise Successful People, which is also in Russian, by the way. And I say that it works not only in the schools, but it also works in the workplace, and it works in parenting, because everyone wants to be trusted and respected. It's so important, and people will do so much to be trusted and respected. So let's start at home and let the schools help do that as well. And then please remember to forgive them if they make a mistake, because that is where mistakes happen in school. If there were no mistakes, why would they have to go to school? You know, they could just go to work right away. So That's the most important thing. Let's change the culture of the classroom.
Esther, thanks a lot for this chat. Thank you for your vision, and we wish you all the best of luck with everything. Younger people have always been the driver of change, but today more than ever. And no wonder different platforms are being created to give them the opportunity to show what they can do and what solutions they can bring to the table. For instance, Vladislav Kaim is a member of the UN Secretary General's Youth Advisory Group on Climate Change. Vladislav, it's really great to have you with us. Welcome. So climate change is going to affect all of us more and more. What can young advisory group like yours do to bring a real solution to the problem?
First of all, youth advisory groups like the UN Secretary General's Youth Advisory Group, National Youth Climate Councils, or other youth engagement mechanisms like this primarily serve as a conduit for youth from different backgrounds who do not have necessarily an insider knowledge of the UN processes or the national processes of climate, to channel their views and make them translated into policy proposals together with the colleagues who have such an insider knowledge of the process, and to demonstrate to those who are on the senior side engaged into this process that the engagement of youth is an engagement on co-equal terms, and that the competency of the youth engaged in the process in terms of how things work, how policy is made, is no less in terms of expectations and quality than their own process of policy making.
Traditionally, young people are supposed to listen to older people's life wisdom, follow their advice, but it's kind of vice versa in your case. It's millennials and Gen Zers who have been witnessing climate cataclysms more often during their lifetime than previous generations. Wildfires, tornadoes, other natural disasters, they break out every now and then in different parts of the world, and they're going to happen even more often. What's the lesson they can teach each other? What's the lesson that they can teach older generation in this regard?
I think the first lesson would be for us to teach our elders is on the ability to act bolder. Because unfortunately, what we see in the decision-making logic of today's generation of leaders who are 30, 40 years older than us is that there is a lot of inertia, there is a lot of short-termism, and there are too many justifications for their inaction. For us youth, we have been taught by circumstances to do more with not just less than the previous generation, but with nearly nothing in terms of resources. So teaching them this nimbleness, the ability to act bold, and to be able to adjust fast when taking decisions that are the most consequential to climate change issues. I think it's extremely important. And last but not the least would be to also teach them the proper standards of inclusivity. I think youth spaces for everything that is happening there in terms of engagement in climate change are still a way better example of how you actually tackle multiple intersectional issues when it comes to climate change engagement. And those spaces are way more inclusive than higher level spaces, which in fact was demonstrated by the proceedings of COP26 as well.
Thanks a lot, Vladislav, for this wonderful chat, and we wish you all the best of luck.
Thank you.
I just want to thank you all for this amazing, insightful, interesting talk that we've had. I really hope that after this, we understand each other at least a little better. There's obviously a lot that we can learn from each other. Really, we need each other. I think, our speakers have proved this idea that every new generation is better educated, better informed, freer in their choices, freer than the previous one. But they're also more responsible about the choices they make. And I think the bottom line is we're all interconnected, and one person's actions define what our tomorrow, our collective tomorrow, will be like. Technologies, they give us equal opportunities to influence, whether you're just a regular person or a big corporation like Rosatom. But what if their efforts and mutual aspirations meet? Just imagine. So let's see what young people think about it.
We see a lot of asset managers and a lot of the financial companies that have the potential to fund youth strategies now making a lot of pledges, but we want them to be implemented. We want pledges to become action.
So the youth can bridge the gap between all the elements. When we talk about the achieving some goals, we talk about the culture collaboration. So in Indonesia, we propose the pentahelix models.
The first thing that has to be done is obviously to include more youth in decision-making roles. That's one major step that we can achieve that. Then maybe once we have many youth in decision-making roles, then they can be able to achieve some sort of partnership to work together.
We should rethink the idea that we have of young people as new resources that are going to bring a fresh wind into the transformation of the world, especially thinking about international cooperation.
It's not only on governments or individuals, so if ESG principles are implemented in businesses, that would already take us quite a far step.
So I think if we focus more on youth employment and how we can unleash the potential of young people who have recently graduated but who have much potential and many ideas in hand, we can achieve what you refer to as the synergy and mutual trust between businesses and youth.
The most important aspect for improving the future is working together because we do not have much time.
Дорогие друзья, для меня лично одной из главных тем Global Impact Conference стало понимание роли молодого поколения в устойчивой трансформации мира.
Of youth in sustainable transformation of the world. Despite their tender age, these days young people are vigorous, ever ready to take responsibility and actively search for solutions to global challenges. For us, it's crucial to build partnerships with young visionaries. I believe that these relationships must be, first of all, built on trust. Indeed, we are all heading in the same direction, a more just and sustainable future for all. We hear the voices of young people and understand their needs. It means that we are open to a dialogue and eager to work together on our global strategy and to deliver a joint impact on the future. Dear friends, this is why I believe it would be a sound and timely resolution of this conference to establish an International Youth Advisory Council, Impact Team 2050. I'm convinced that our global partnership with the younger generation will become a driving force of a positive change around the world.
They say that young people are the hope of our future. We say the future is already here. Those born on the edge of the 21st centuries have undoubtedly grown into a generation of future shapers and action takers. The largest youth generation ever. They launch new businesses, run worldwide initiatives, and have a telling impact on society and its most important decisions. Young people are driving ambition, and Rosatom is excited to introduce Impact Team 2050 as a Rosatom Youth Global Partnership for transition to a sustainable youth-driven future. Impact Team 2050 has been created to become an international youth advisory body for Rosatom's global leadership. The team members will present a diverse and inclusive cohort of young visionaries who have proven their ability to make an impact. Lasting 3 stages, the comprehensive selection will define who will be a part of the bold corporate actions which will move us towards a youth-led impact. As a youth-based advisory, the team will bring young people's perspective to the Rosatom global strategy through a comprehensive Impact 2050 report. As a fostering mechanism, the team will foster impactful youth-led initiatives from all over the globe and become their patrons together with Rosatom. We believe in the essence of trust and partnership when delivering global impact. Together with the Youth-Driven Impacts Team 2050, we will challenge the world to be more just and sustainable for all.